We really do live in a wonderland here in Portland. I ride my bike to work, and going across Morrison Bridge, looked out yesterday, and there was Mount Hood, covered with fresh snow just shining in the distance. I looked down off the bridge. There are people out there fishing for salmon before work in the morning. In a major American city, people fishing for salmon. We can zip to the beach, run the mountains. The air's clean, the water's pure. The sights are spectacular. It's really a wonderland we live in. When the first Europeans came to this area, they called it the Garden of Eden. Salmon was so thick, they said you could walk across the streams on their backs. The trees were the size of buildings and forests that seemed to go on forever. Beaver in every stream, gold just laying about, the works. But they were unable or unwilling to see the destructive effect of their collective actions. And so they cut, they mined, they trapped, they fished, they dumped their shit in the rivers until they almost destroyed this wonderland. Why? Because they're guilty of magical thinking. Thinking that tomorrow will be like today, that you can take and take, consume and consume, and there'll always be more. Like one more wish in Aladdin's lamp, but you only get 3. Today, we don't have the excuse of their ignorance. We know too much about our impact on the earth, but we still think magically. We know that our garbage, the car exhaust, our shit doesn't just disappear. There is no away. But ding, oh, it's Amazon Prime's at the door. The latest gadget, the newest book, household appliance, and that pile of packaging, plastic and cardboard. What do we do with that? Oh, bing. Oh, they just released the latest iPhone. Let's run down to the Apple store and stand in line for hours. But what happens to those mountains of obsolete or just unfashionable gadgets? Where did they go? Or how about that new Tesla? Did you put down your $1,000? The latest there is in electronic vehicle technology. But 70% of electricity in the United States is made by burning fossil fuels. Why is it so hard for us to figure out what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do, what's worth worrying about, and what isn't? Take one example of the latest disease, well, actually the disease before this one, the Ebola, right? Jumps up in the media, all over the radio, the television, the internet. It's the end of the world. Rush out and buy some more antibacterial product. Yet last year, 10 times more people died trying to cross the street in Portland than died in the whole United States due to Ebola. Car crashes are the #1 cause of death for young people in this country, yet we still jump in the car without a thought, throw our kids in the back, because it won't happen to us. Magical thinking has real consequences. It leads to making the wrong choices because we're basing our decisions on wishes rather than facts. So how do we get out of this magical thinking loop? How do we become critical thinkers? How can we gain those skills to examine risks, to make informed choices, and to really understand the consequences of our actions? Don't you wish you had a built-in bullshit meter that would light up every time you heard the phrase, "A new study shows"? The future will require us to be wise, thoughtful, and skeptical. And more information's not the answer. If I had a nickel, or maybe a quarter, for every BuzzFeed or Huffington headline that read, "Did you know that? Top 5 ways to," or "the 21 most important." This unanalyzed, unchallenged, and unsubstantiated claims get repeated until we think they must be true. A good bullshit meter would help us separate the bogus from the true, the speculative from the proven, and propaganda from thoughtful discussion. We will need good bullshit meters in the future, and let me tell you why. Jared Diamond is the author. He wrote a book about the fate of civilizations that once dominated their world like we dominate ours. But where are the Mayans, the Babylonians, the rulers of Angkor Wat, Where are they today? Their great civilizations collapsed when they consumed more than their environment could provide. In his book, Diamond lays out 12 major threats that threaten our civilization, and we're just going to look at 3 of them. I don't want to depress you too much. So soil, water, and air. In the past 150 years, over half of the Earth's topsoil has blown or washed away to the sea. Soil that took millions of years to build up and that we depend on for all of our food. Water. Already 1/3 of the Earth's population struggles every day to find sufficient clean water. 2 billion people who are suffering from diseases or an early death because their water is too polluted or too hard to find. Air, and I'm going to say climate. The last decade was the hottest in 140 years of recording, and 2014 and 2015 topped that list. The climate is heating up faster than ever predicted. If you look at this list, what's clear is that humans are pushing the physical limits of this planet. We have 7 billion people who eat, move, consume, and in the modern global economy, we require huge flows of energy and materials to meet our needs. It's really a math problem. Stuff in doesn't equal stuff out. An economy built on burning up the Earth's capital, its topsoil, its fresh water, its fossil fuels, it just isn't sustainable. So, how do we figure out how to balance this system? Because these problems won't just go away, that's magical thinking. We need to prepare our future generations with the profound insights that have been discovered by the work of people over the years, people who have questioned beliefs and unprovable presumptions, who demand proof. We call these people scientists. Sorry, out of favor. We need those tools and understanding that science provides if we are to overcome these challenges. We need to use physics, chemistry, biology to redesign our economy and our society so that it is sustainable. Science is an incredibly powerful tool to help us do this. But we are a woefully scientifically illiterate society. Half of Americans don't believe that climate change is caused by humans, despite 40 years of study and data gathered by thousands of scientists worldwide. 1/3 of Americans believe that vaccinating your kids for common childhood diseases will lead to autism, despite the one study that made this claim had been refuted and the researcher disbarred for falsifying his data. But it's not all that hard to grow scientists. All kids start life with the basic skills they need: curiosity, enthusiasm, and a great big world to go out and explore. I'm going to tell you a story about my son Lars and his friend Owen. When he is 5 or 6 years old, every time his friend Owen would come over, they'd go off into the garden and tear apart my garden wall, one stone at a time. They were looking for bugs. They'd find a millipede or a pill bug, and it proved their hypotheses. Bugs live under rocks. And they'd do this again and again. Every time he'd visit, I'd build the wall up, they'd tear it down, build the wall up, tear it down. They were scientists. They also learned about physics, lifting those big rocks, mass, momentum, gravity. But these kids were not unusual. All kids come with these tools. They're curious, they have enthusiasm, but not all kids have access to the natural world. So we need to reach all of our children with these experiences so they can develop these skills. The kids who don't get a chance to the beach, or even the kids whose parents do take them. Let's say we go for a walk in Forest Park, or we go skiing at Mount Hood. But when the kids ask questions, what is that tree? What kind of bird is that? Why does water run downhill? And why is the sky blue? We need to get our children out of doors, and we need ways to help them understand the world and how it works, to look at the world as scientists and become critical and thoughtful citizens. We've been wrestling with this for a long time, and in Oregon, we've had this great experiment to take children out and give them these experiences and it's called Outdoor School. Great. Outdoor School began in 1957 in Southern Oregon because people were worried that the children that were growing up were disconnected from the natural world. They didn't understand where their food came from. They didn't understand that a healthy forest is critical for clean air and water. So Outdoor School, imagine this, taking a busload of 11-year-olds, okay, great, squirrely little 11-year-olds, to the woods for a full week. Have high school students teach them about pH and teach them about how to measure a Douglas fir and teach them about habitat and teach them how to live together and work together, to collaborate. These kids learn incredible skills in leadership. They learned about the natural world. They also learned about their community and the importance of working together to protect this. It was a great idea, a great way to educate. Soon, outdoor schools were throughout Oregon, and almost 90% of children used to go to outdoor school. This generation of individuals, they faced their environmental problems. The 60s, 50s and 60s and 70s, high levels of air pollution in our cities. The Willamette River was a dead river because we poured our industrial waste and our shit in there. Sprawl was covering farmland. We were losing farmland. But these educated young people with critical thinking were innovative, come up with these great ideas to help protect and support this area that they loved, this Oregon, this great wonderland. Ideas like the bottle bill, access to public beaches, the Oregon Clean Air and Water Acts, the bicycle bill, the world's first ban of ozone-depleting chemicals here in Oregon. Yes. Over the last couple decades, though, this grand experiment in getting kids outside and turning them into scientists has faltered. Schools' budgets have been cut. They've lost PE, art, and music, as well as outdoor school. Today, only about half of our Oregon school kids get this incredibly important training and profound and engaging way to know the natural world. And without this early and exciting engagement with sciences, that happens naturally if you just take a kid outside. The kids get turned off to this. I'm not a scientist. I don't like math. And they fail to develop that ability to think critically for themselves. Their bullshit meters never get turned on. And then you add in the hours that our kids spend on the screen and the very little time they get to just be outdoors. Is it any wonder that they know more about Snapchat than Snapdragon, that they know more about tweeting than birdsong, and they can build 10, 20 levels in Minecraft, but don't know how to build a fort out of driftwood? No matter how dazzling what comes across the screen is, I watched all the Planet Earth videos. They blew me away. But that your feet never get muddy. Your heart doesn't pound when you climb that mountain or see a salmon spawning right there in front of you. You don't recognize the taste of cucumber when you bite down on a leaf of Indian plum. Knowing the world that makes you fall in love with that world requires that we experience and understand it. Getting our kids outside is the way to foster that love and foster that understanding. We can do this as individuals, as neighbors, as parents, and as volunteers in the community. But we can do it in a big way by getting the outdoors into our schools and getting our kids into the outdoors. Because, woo! Yeah, okay. School is how we pass on our values and knowledge and skills to the next generation. We spend billions every year with the hope that the next generation, our kids, get what they need to be successful, to be productive and contributing adults. Will they be ready to face the incredible challenges ahead? Will they be able to resist the lure of magical thinking? Will they be able to call bullshit when they hear false promises and false solutions. We know it's possible to give our kids the superpower of critical thinking, to build on their natural curiosity and enthusiasm and love of the outside world, of the natural world, and we do that by taking them outside. Give them the chance to lick that slug. It's fun. To test the pH of a stream and understand what that means, to measure the height of a Douglas fir and understand the role that Douglas fir plays in our ecosystem, to wade in a creek, to look for bugs under rocks, to find their place in the world. And it's right there. It's right outside the door. It's that wonderland that we live in. Thank you.